Hi Nathan, let's break down your smoke animation. So first of all, you've got the movement quite right. There are just some moments where the form and the spacing changes a little bit differently, and that's why it seems a little bit shaky at some parts. So we'll look into that, and aside from that, the overall motion is quite good. So let's look at this one. So we start with acceleration and then we slowly decelerate. There are some parts in the contour which are a little bit rough, especially around the edges, but you can work on that during the other weeks of the course. So yeah, we've got deceleration. It will be probably better to move this one a little bit lower so that we get constant deceleration in the upper part. And here it should probably be lower because we are going to decelerate the smoke and it's accelerating at this frame. So you see, we switch to deceleration again, and this one is a little bit of acceleration. So we can work a little bit on the slowdown, because the transition between this frame and this frame is a little bit too fast, and you see that we accelerate this part again. So we should probably fix this spacing a little bit, and that will look even better. So we have to work on that part, make the spacing more consistent here, and probably move this a little bit down. And aside from that, the spacing on the main part of the smoke is quite good. The edges seem a little bit shaky as they're changing its position and direction in some parts. So let's look at here. We've got a slowdown, and then we have a very quick acceleration, and as you can see, it's a very fast change, and that's why it will be a little bit rough in motion. So we've got acceleration, deceleration again, very fast deceleration, and then acceleration in some parts, and then we've got a very fast stop. So it's like the motion is halted, so it doesn't move here and here, and then it moves again. So that's why the contour and these parts of the smoke are sort of shaking in a way, because they don't have a very consistent motion in that part, and here they just stop and then move again. And that's a tiny bit that we can fix. Same goes for this part, but in this case it changes size and the thickness of the smoke. So you see it lags behind in this point, then it moves quite fast, then it lags again, it stops in one place and then it moves again. So we've got 1, 2, quite fast 3, 4, then we've got 6 over there, and 7 over there again. So we've got the change of motion here, and then we return to its original path. then the smoke goes even faster and slows down again. Slows down and then goes faster again. So the spacing here is a little bit inconsistent in that regard. So it lags behind, it moves. And here it seems okay. But yeah, the particle isn't rotating, in fact it's just moving in that direction. To rotate it, you need something like this, but instead it just goes to the right. So some smaller issues with this edge as well. So it's mainly because the form is changing. You see this part lags behind, then it doesn't, then it lags behind again, then it slows down, then some parts move again, and then the whole mass gets much more fast. As you can see, it accelerates significantly, then decelerates again, accelerates again, decelerates again, accelerates again, so the spacing is not very consistent. You see deceleration for 2 frames, and then quite fast motion, and so on. So in this part we can work on some of the transition here, here and there, and it will be much better. Same thing at the bottom of the smoke. Some parts don't move for quite a lot of frames, so this part doesn't move at all. Then it starts moving, and the motion isn't consistent at some moments. So this part moves, so you see it moves very slowly, and then it gets much thicker and moves way faster, and then stops again. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 it changes direction, and then you see I've got a very fast transition as well. And then it went all the way to the right, then it stopped there, went up again, and stopped again. So you can work on these transitions and smaller particles and make them look a bit more consistent. So wish you good luck with your works. Oh, and you've sent something else. So let's look at the concept. This concept looks a little bit rough, so let's look at that. So I like some of the parts. I like this part, and its motion is quite obvious. However, we can work on some other parts, probably make the first stage a little bit more simple, because as of right now it's way detailed compared to all the other stages. So the details here are very small, and as the stage is very fast, it will be a little bit hard to read in motion, a little bit hard to understand. That's why it's better to make it much more simple and maybe add just small shadow like this. That way it will be much easier to understand what's going on in motion. So I suggest simplifying the shape and the edges. Same thing applies here. we can simplify the edges at the start. So if it's an if it's an explosion going in all directions, you should probably start off with something different, and then this straight motion doesn't seem very reasonable if it's an explosion if it's a spherical explosion, so to speak. So we should probably convey that explosions going in all directions, and for the first frame of the thumbnail we can, for example, make it one mass, break it into particles only in some parts, and make it a little bit more connected, so to speak. And then we can break it into masses and smaller particles. And it's better to keep the edges and the shadows a little bit more simplified in some parts, so that it won't be too complex when it's on screen. Probably something like that. And then as the explosion is spherical, it should probably move in these directions. So if this part is going like this, it should probably be going somehow like this or like this, or maybe it can move according to the curve, for example like this or like this. Because if it's just going straight and it's positioned in this part of explosion, so if this is the center, then it's a little bit strange for this mass just to go straight up, and it's probably better if you rotate this mass. It would be way more interesting, so this mass rotates and not just goes in a straight line. Same applies for this particle. As the center of the explosion is located somewhere around here, it's better and more interesting to add some kind of rotation and or twist or something like that for the particle and for these particles as well. Hope that helps, and wish you good luck with your animations.